Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome back to Ace Podcast Nation, Series 5 of my story, and we're finally here for Part 2 with Knuckle, No.1 Contender, Mr. James Lights. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, nice one for having me back on. It's been a while coming. So life's been a bit hectic since I was on here last, so trying to nail me down is quite a hard job, so thank you again.
No, it's been good, mate. It's been looking forward to it. It's like, we only had, I think we were quite constricted for time anyway, and then the battery ran out on a camera, I think it was, like right at the end, so we lost like the last sort of 5 or 10 minutes. So I was keen to get you back in as soon as possible, and a few people were asking as well, when's Part 2? It's like, you know,
yeah, that's my fault.
He's in America at the moment, isn't he? I can't do much about that. But yeah, I think so. Like the last time you come, I think was the first time you were looking at fighting Tyler Goodjohn, and then I think it sort of fell through and then came back, and it's been a bit of an interesting period for you, mate.
Yeah, I said, I think we were speaking to it just off camera. I think I kind of told you about the Tyler Goodjohn fight, was like, oh, I don't want to see it on camera because we're having a bit of back and forth with the contracts, and then it got signed. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so it was, that was kind of the fight I wanted, because he was such a big name in the UK and in the bare knuckle scene, and yeah, I think that was kind of my like coming out fight, so to speak, you know.
Yeah, I think certainly that was the fight where people outside of like maybe Wales and like the people who know you, people who like support you fight to fight, but like people outside of that sort of circle and all that bubble were like, oh, he's going places, he's gossiping, because you could see it on social media. I noticed a big influx, I guess, of more people talking about that fight after obviously you won.
Yeah.
But like, talk to me about that. Like, apart from the fight, obviously you've been out to America. You've been out to America a couple of times now, haven't you?
Yeah. So it's nearly a year since I signed on for BKFC. I made my debut in Florida. I think it's what's the date today? In about 10 days' time, I think I made my debut out there. So that was that one punch knockout, which I didn't expect, and like it was weird because no one knew who I was then. You know, a couple of the fighters knew who I were, but like the fan base didn't. And from that, compared to going to New Orleans in February, it's just literally, I can't believe what's happened in the 12 months for the, like you said, the influx of people talking about it. And I think the Tyler Goodjohn fight was definitely one of the main catalysts for that, because he was such a big name. But yeah, it's been a crazy 12 months since I was last on here.
What was it like going out? Like, what's it like going out to America to fight? Obviously, it's very different there to fighting in this country.
Yeah, the second time I went out, it was nuts. I took 2 of my cornermen with me who they'd never been to America, and I wanted to take them with me just to give them the experience, and you know that was quite a proud moment for me. But the second time I went out there, because the population of America is so big, like even a small percentage, if they're just fans, it's like 10 times the fan base like the UK's got. So we were having like kids coming up to us asking me for photos, asking me for merch. And like one of my mates said, he said, "You're like a fucking celeb over here." So I was just swearing. He said, "You're like a celeb over here." I was like, "No, I can't believe it." And for like, for someone from Wales, so to speak, it's mad having that kind of following abroad, because I think we're nesters in Wales. I think we like our little nest, whatever. And to have people come up to me, like I was walking around before the fight in the arena, introducing myself to some people, like typical, even though I was co-main event, typical Welshman. "Oh, hi, I'm James," and like ex-UFC fighters, like, "Yeah, we know who you are. You're a great fighter and stuff," and it just blew my mind, and they're so enthusiastic over there. I don't want to like say the UK fans aren't great, because they are great, but in America they seem to just do everything bigger and bolder, and they're so much more enthusiastic about it. Like they couldn't believe that I had a full-time job. They're like, "What, you work full-time as well?" I was like, "Yeah." They got run in the gym. I was like, "No, I'm an engineer." And it just blows their mind. And yeah, I love it. If I had the opportunity, a couple of them have asked me, I would try and shift my family over there, to be honest. Yeah, I honestly, the love I was getting over there, the opportunities over there, for making money. I'm not like talking about being like a millionaire or whatever, but you could just start a little like company, and because the population's so big, you get people through the door. It's mad. It's a different world over there. And I love it. They've been great. Except when they were booing me, but yeah, but they've been great over there. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like when you're in Wales and that, Swansea, Cardiff, whatever, like you kind of, if someone recognises you or whatever, you're not that surprised really, because like you fought on Cage Warriors, you fought boxing, you done obviously the bare knuckle boxing now and that. So like it's not a massive surprise to be sort of, if someone's a fight fan or whatever and they recognise you in it. But I guess if you're out in America on the other side of the world and you've got like kids coming up to you, it's got to be a bit surreal. Like, how's that getting, like in terms of your mindset coming into the fight? Because must be relatively hard to not get distracted by that, because that is quite a new thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
for you, like
it's weird because the team I take with me, like the corner team, they're my friends. They're not people
you've like hired.
I've hired, or these are guys I've been in the gym with. For one of my trainers, Josh, I've known him since he was a 13-year-old kid when I used to train with his father. Di Owen's my age, James Walsh, a couple of years older than me, and these are guys that I've grown up with in different gyms and from the same area. So it's like, I know it sounds mad, but it's like being on a boys' holiday, because we're just literally like, we don't take things serious, so we're just literally laughing and joking. And you can see like some of the other fighters around the hotel that they've all got this like somber mood, like they're all like trying to look angry and stuff, and we are just non-stop laughing. Relaxed. Like little. It's just typical British people, like little comments here, little niggles, just laughing, taking the piss out of each other, and I think that helped me with the distractions, because if I was with, say, like a team that were a bit more serious, I might have then got distracted and thought about, but because we just had to laugh, because it's fun for us, the fight's serious, yeah, of course it is, but the whole thing is fun, it's our dream at the end of the day, for us to be international fighters, for us to be international trainers. That's what we wanted. So, yeah, so it was easy, it could have been easy for us to get distracted, but we knew we were there for business, so, and we're just experiencing different cultures and having a laugh, and I can't thank the guys who were with me enough, because literally I didn't think about the fight until we got to the change room and started warming up on the pads. We were just laughing and joking, and that took my mind off the fight.
How long before the fight did you go out there?
So Florida, I think I flew out on the Monday, fought on the Thursday. Louisiana,
that's not much time, is it, at all?
Like a lot of people were asking me about the time difference, but if you fight on the East Coast, they're only 5 or 6 hours behind us. So I kind of worked out, right, if I don't sleep on the plane on the way over and then just stayed up that little bit extra, the little bit later, and made my day from a 24-hour day into like a 30-hour day, I wouldn't have noticed a time difference. And I've done that twice now, and it's kind of worked, because I haven't felt tired. I haven't felt like, I'm in it on a different time zone. We've literally got off the plane both times, gone straight into the hotel gym, done some running, done some pad work, and then gone to bed. So I found it quite easy to adjust. Now, if I was maybe the other side of America, where they're like,
wait, a few more hours, isn't it?
Yeah, then that might have made a difference. But we've been pretty good, like with the way it's worked. What was weird was like when I work away, obviously I'm away from my kids a bit, so I miss them. But because they're in the same time zones and you can literally FaceTime them and they'll answer the phone, because the UK were like 6 hours ahead, sometimes they'd miss them, and they'd be in bed and stuff. So that was a bit weird. It's the only time I noticed. Really, I didn't notice it in Florida as much, but in New Orleans, like I was ringing my wife on fight day. We were having breakfast, and she was in the car and going out, clothes with her hair up, and I was like, "Where you off? I got to pick up one of the girls," because they were all going out for a meal and then watching the fight back at my house. So I'm going to pick one of the girls up now. I was like, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. She's like, no, it's 3 in the afternoon. I was like, all right, okay. But that was a bit weird. But yeah, other than that, I think we handled it really well.
Yeah, and I guess like as a father as well, like you're used to seeing, or even if you're working away or whatever, like you're used to being able to speak to your kids each day, and like you say, with that time difference, it only takes you, I don't know, doing a bit of training or a bit of media or whatever, and then you're like, suddenly it's too late.
Yeah.
You've gone to bed or whatever, and then you're like, I suppose that could get in your head a little bit, couldn't it? But it's the life you got, innit?
Yeah, I was a little bit, I think I was a little bit worked up after the fight. The guy, Kieran, who come to film it,
Yeah.
I think he captured me. I was a bit like, because it was 11 o'clock sort of their time, so that's 5 in the morning. My kids were down, their grandparents, because my missus had people on the house to watch the fight and stay up. So that was a bit like, I can't speak to them now,
Yeah.
So that was a bit, that was a bit that sort of took me back. But yeah, but like I said, although it is quite a selfish thing, fighting, I am trying to like do it so they might have something that I don't know when I was growing up.
Yeah, of course. And I think like most fighters, I think, who are parents, they try and they want to, like, the first thing they want to do once they've done their fights or whatever is they want to speak to their missus, their kids and that. Because I suppose for kids especially, like, if you've got that fight overnight, they're not going to necessarily stay up to watch it because of the time and that. So like they may go to bed being a bit apprehensive or whatever, thinking about like, oh, dad's fighting or whatever. And then obviously they wake up in the morning, and I would assume that's like the first thing they want to know is like, did he win?
Yeah.
Did he get his teeth knocked out? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like
all the stuff.
Yeah, I'm used to like speaking, especially my oldest daughter now. Like she's coming up to 10, so she notices, and she's got a phone now, so she knows when she can contact me and stuff. So yeah, it's a weird one with kids, and the sport. But as I said, although I am doing it for selfish reasons, I'm hoping the end goal will benefit them as well.
Yeah, so like on that, like the end goal, obviously, it's very well known, a top contender now, isn't it? Is there like any sort of sign of that title shot coming about anytime soon, do you think? Or
we were told that the fight in New Orleans was a title eliminator. We were told the next fight would be for the title. I know there's a couple of moving pieces, some spinning plates, because obviously the champion at 2 weights. There's contenders at welterweight, the weight above. So we're literally just waiting to see. They're all about bringing a show to Wales in September, depending on who they're signing for. The fights depends on the size of the show. I was in Swansea Arena yesterday doing this poetry thing, and they took me backstage. So I sent a clip of the arena to the promoter and said, Swansea Arena could have you. So yeah, no, the dream would be to bring BKFC to Wales the first time, but yeah, the title is the main goal at the moment, because that will open up bigger doors. Funny enough, I watched back. Remember when we did the fight show with Danny?
Yeah.
A while back, and he said at the time, I'm a bit like a backpacker where I didn't know where my destination was, but I was just seeing where it would lead me. Well, that's kind of changed since we spoke on that show, whereas I've got a goal now. I'm not just doing MMA, boxing, bare knuckle.
Yeah.
I want the title, so I don't know. It's kind of stuck in between, because do I wait around for the shot, or do I keep busy fighting and risk it?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because there was that woman, wasn't there, in the UFC last year who had a title shot, and like she was next in line, I think, to fight Shevchenko maybe, which is obviously a massive fight. And then they basically gave her the option, like, wait or take a fight. She took a fight, which was, I can't remember who it was, but off the top of my head, but like it looked like a tricky fight on paper, and she ended up losing. And of course, you lose your title shot then, really, unless there's not really other contenders, because if you fight in between, not that I think you would lose, but like it's that risk, innit? When you at the end of the day, like, you're in line for a title, you've earned that, and it's like, why should you? In some ways, it's like, why should you risk that? why should you not wait out until you get that shot which you've been promised? But then I also, having spoken to you, spoken to other fighters, I fully understand like that need of and I want to fight regular, and I think
it's a really tricky one because okay, you will get paid for it, but I feel now completely different to before, because even before the Tyler fight, although they'd ranked me, I can't remember, I was like number 3 I think. Now that I've gone up to the number 1, I feel like a little bit more pressure because people are gunning for me now, which is because I'm between them and a title shot. So I feel a bit of pressure on me, and I got people chasing me, but I'm not chasing fights anymore, although I am chasing the title fight. That's pretty much nailed on for whatever's going to happen. So I think I've got to learn to change my mindset from... It happened with, what's his name, didn't it? Dillian White in the lockdown with Potkin. He took that fight as keep busy fight and got knocked out. So it's a risky one, but I think I've just got to change my mindset now and just see how the chips lie. And I'm really... What's the word? I'm a really unrestful fighter, whereas like, it's only been 2 months from my last fight, not even that. Then I'm already like texting my manager, "Can you get me a fight?" You know, it's...
The thing is, what are we now? April, September seems a long time away, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
But what I would caveat that with is it's not really, and also and also like if the chips, like you say, if the chips fall nicely, you could end up having that title shot in Swansea, which is just your hometown, isn't it? Yeah, well,
boo. We're not going to talk about the football then, are we?
No. Please God, no.
The perfect scenario would be fight for the title in the summer, defending Wales in the winter. Because once I got that title, then I could attract an even bigger name. You know, like. For me, the dream is, you know, you got Eddie Alvarez fighting Chad Mendes now in April.
That's mad,
if Chad Mendes wins, he's ranked 4th, but he was ranked number 1, and they've obviously dropped him down because he hasn't fought for a year. But if he wins again, there's no reason why he wouldn't go back up the rankings, and then the person he'd have to look to fight, unless he's just fighting big names, would be me. So... depending on what the champion wants to do, I can't see why that wouldn't be a fight for Wales. You know, that would be massive.
Fight today. Yeah, it's surreal to me, mind, because like when I think back when Chad Mendes fought McGregor, and like he was so very much like a wrestler, and not a striker, and now he's doing.
He's still a wrestler, he's not a striker. No. But no, it's like...
But like, at least with Eddie Alvarez, like, I can see it.
Yeah.
Like, from the outside, like, he was always decent at striking, at least. But like, Chad Mendes wasn't.
No,
like, a striker sort of thing.
I don't think, looking at that card where you got Mike Perry and Luke Rockhold, I don't think some of the fighters who are fighting on that card have got aspirations outside of that fight. So
like a one-off payday.
And it's, don't get me wrong, it's like
some big names in there, isn't it?
It's like 2 MMA fighters fighting each other in boxing or whatever. It's a different sport. It's, you know, you haven't got. It's not going to affect your MMA legacy. Blah blah blah. But then, with a sport that's trying to grow, although it's bringing eyes to the sport, you know, if they're just there for that one fight.
Doesn't grow it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the chances are their fans who come in to watch them maybe won't stay around.
Yeah,
unless they catch like someone like you or like someone who is there all the time on one of the undercard fights or one of the other fights on the card, and they're like, "Oh, he looks proper or whatever, or he looks good," and then they'll kind of start following them.
Yeah,
if they just come in to watch Eddie Alvarez or Mike Perry or whoever. I don't think they stay around, do they? So no. It's almost like I wonder, like, how do you feel about that then? Because obviously, like, you tried a bit of everything, didn't you? Like we talked about on the fight show with Danny, and then a little bit last time. You tried a bit of everything, and like you seem to have really found the sport that suits you, the one that suits you, the style that suits you, and obviously you've been very successful in the last year, especially. Like, so that's. And like you're dedicated to that now, like that's what you do.
Yeah.
and then you see these like kind of UFC guys where I think what's Mike Perry, I think he's probably gonna hang around because I don't think, like for instance, I don't think UFC would have him back or whatever. So like, I think he's gonna do it or try to.
He looks like he's got a bit of a passion for this will be his third fight. So although he is fighting ex-MMA guys, but he is. Yeah, he does seem to have a bit of a passion for it. I think he wants to fight for the title, so that's
good for the sport.
Yeah, that's good for the sport. Yeah,
But these guys who come in for one fight, like, how do you feel about that as an hour?
I can understand the need for it because if you've got a bare knuckle card and you've got, say, guys who've just got a bare knuckle boxing background and they haven't had the exposure. Someone might come along and say, "Oh, I don't know any of these fighters," but if they recognise a name, if it's like, say, Chad Mendes versus me, they might not know who I am, but they'll know who Chad Mendes is. So, but when it's like Chad Mendes versus Eddie Alvarez, I don't know. It's like
it's in line, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's needed at the moment. It's a needs must. You need to bring these names in, and hopefully, if it brings, say, 100 fans over, and 15 of them then stay, that's a little win, and I think it's built up. But it could mean, of the budgets and money running out, spend all money on these guys, and then the guys at the bottom who are, working their way up.
Yeah.
It could piss people off, But like, I'm all for it. If it means I can end up fighting Chad Mendes or Eddie Alvarez, so be it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think it's a thin line in there, like, because I think you need, like you say, you do need those names to attract people, and particularly like there's with UFC, with boxing, with bare knuckle, you're gonna have like a hardcore base who are gonna watch every show or every fight card, whatever. Then you've got ones who will kind of jump in for either people they know or people they follow or the big fights, and then you'll have like the sort of more casual fans who will literally only watch like the biggest of cards and the biggest of shows. And to keep them around, you do have to have those big names. But like you say, if you have like two ex-MMA guys fighting each other who are just gonna do that one and done, I'm not sure.
Like
it's a thin line, isn't it?
If I wasn't involved in bare knuckle, I wasn't a fan of the sport, I would probably still watch that card at the end of the month because of the
people who's on it.
And to be honest, watching Mike Perry in bare knuckle is exciting on its own. He's a monster, like
lunatic, mate.
Yeah. And so I would watch that card, and like the two fights I've seen him in bare knuckle, Julian Lane and MVP, they were great fights. So I probably watched the fight just for him. Even and it just adds to it that he's fighting another ex-UFC guy who was a world champion. So that just adds to it for me,
Yeah.
Eddie Alvarez, Chad Mendes, maybe not, because Chad Mendes has only fought a guy who's from the weight below, and Eddie Alvarez, I can't even remember the last time he fought, to be honest. It was one championship, maybe.
Yeah, he was fighting one for a bit, wasn't he? But I don't think he did massively great towards the end. Like, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because like, I'm all for fighters getting fights. If they want to fight, give them fights, until they don't want to fight no more. But because it's a brutal game, and you don't like seeing fighters sort of who were once at the top of the game sort of fade out of it, and then they have sort of money troubles and the rest of it.
Yeah, exactly.
They have other problems. So like, I'm all for that. But
I think with like my parent, an example, I think because he got released from UFC and he still wanted to fight, and he maybe didn't want to do MMA anymore, I think he found a sport that suits him a bit better as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have offered to fight him, but
that'd be an exciting fight. Come on.
And like Mike Perry's a great example of like a crossover fighter who actually wants to grow the sport. Don't know about the other guys. I can't speak for them, but he's a good example of
So, out of those like 4 ex-UFC guys, is there any like a particular one out of them which you would like to fight?
Because of the weights in BKFC, Mike Perry fights a 175, which is probably a bit big for me. But when I met him in person, he didn't look a bit. He's short, but he's stocky.
Yeah.
175. I fought a 170 before. 175 would probably be a little bit heavy for me for pure stand up, you know. So I'd probably look at Alvarez and Chad Mendes. Who would I want to fight out of them too? Like Luke Rockhold, I think would be too big for me at 175. Not to say I wouldn't fight him, like, but I think Chad Mendes. I'm hoping Chad Mendes wins because he's already had one fight in bare knuckle.
Yeah.
This would be a second fight, which put him up rankings, and I think
that's quite a big fight for you, isn't it?
Yeah, but then Eddie Alvarez won the UFC title, so it's hard on either of those two. Both of them same night.
Fighting the ex-McGregor opponents, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm all about, you know, the reason like my goals have changed now is because when I was like doing boxing and MMA, maybe I wasn't as good at it as, you know, I am now, and I did get the opportunity. So to fight the best people, you've got to progress up, be the best. And maybe I was just, you know, I was lucky to get some fights for polyps, whatever. But because I've been doing so well at bare knuckle, it means that I've got access. So that's why I'm getting mentioned in the same breath as Chad Mendes, as Eddie Alvarez, and Mike Perry. So that's why my goals change now. I can fight the best fighters. I'm the target now. So whereas before I'd be like, oh, you know, I'd love to fight Chad Mendes. I wasn't good enough at MMA, or Austin Trout in boxing, for example. I wasn't good enough at boxing to get that level. But because I've been doing well at bare knuckle, I mentioned in the same breath as them. So that's why my goals have changed now. I want to fight the best people.
Yeah, and I think because you're the number one ranked, whatever, like they're going to want to fight you at some point, you know, because to get to that title, they're going to have to go through you.
Yeah, I think.
Well, at least they should.
Yeah,
with the way the rankings work, you know.
I think at the minute, I think the problem is, I'm like high risk, low reward at the moment. Other than the fact that they get to number one, because, you know, if they could make more money fighting like Eddie Alvarez, they would. But if they want to stay in the sport, they're going to eventually have to fight someone like me.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to whether they want, like, maybe what might be considered like a bigger money fight, or whether they want to go for the title. And if they want to go for the title, I guess you got to fight the number one ranked fighter, haven't you?
Yeah, I think I personally think BKFC are waiting to see what happens with this April card with all the big names on, and that's where I'll find out when and who I'm fighting. But it's annoying just waiting.
That's it. Now I suppose you've got to just kind of wait and wait. So, do you reckon if you fought in the summer, you reckon that'll be in America?
Yeah, there's two cards that are coming up in June, and I want to be on one of them if I'm not fighting for the title. So that's the only way I'd fight if it's not a title shot is to go back stateside, because I love it over there. But we'll see what happens now. I love America. I want to finish my career over there. I'd like to fight in Wales on the first BKFC show, just to say I was part of it. But if it means I can fight in America and then bring a bigger opponent, bigger name to Wales on a bigger venue, then that.
Have BKFC got any other Welsh fighters signed?
David Round, he fought on. When did he fight? He's fought on the two BKFC London cards.
Yeah.
I think he's the only other Welsh fighter, but there are ex-pros, ex-MMA fighters who have been in contact. So, because what they kind of try and do at the minute is fill like the undercard with local fighters.
Okay.
But there has been some quite big names from combat sports in Wales who've been mentioned for this Wales card. So see how it flows now.
Do you reckon it's easier for someone who's been a boxer like all their career to go into bare knuckle, or someone who's been a MMA fighter all their career?
It's a difficult one because with the BKFC rules set, where you can sort of grab and hold, it does seem to suit the MMA guys. You can see them tying up and going for the plums. You can see like the boxers trying to work out how to shift their head. But I also find like if you're a good boxer and you can work out how to take the punches, you can outbox most of the guys. But the MMA guys then have got the advantage because they've had the little gloves on.
They're used to getting hit.
Yeah, they're used to blocking with the gloves on. You haven't got the thing. So that's why I think I've done well, because I've done the two sports and I kind of was in an MMA gym. I kind of like tinkered my style a little bit to kind of sit between the two. And that's why I think I've done well. But it's a difficult one because I've seen some boxers do really well, and then some MMA guys do really well, and then I've also seen some guys who've got no combat sports background who just want to come in for a fucking scrap, and they've done really well as well. It's a strange one because it's a different sport. It's same as like like rugby and American football. Although they've got similarities, same ball and stuff.
Yeah.
It's different, yeah.
What about like? Have you seen anyone come in and think they're gonna, walk it sort of thing? It's gonna be, this will be much easier than MMA or boxing or whatever, and then they've come in and had a bit of a shock to the system, or not too many.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple of ex-pros who fought on BKB, and I think they it's taken them back a little bit. I think a couple of MMA guys as well, because it's a completely different feeling getting punched no glove on to even those little gloves. But I think a few fighters have had a bit of a surprise with. I think it's more like the pain that you get from the punch. It's not like a concussive blow you get with like the glove on. It's more like a stinging punch.
Yeah.
And you can see some people who are like
not used to it.
Yeah, and they'll cover their face and they'll go down
like
from
that,
pain. Yeah.
Yeah, they're sort of almost like the instant reaction of like if you're just in a street and someone come up to you and just give you like a jab in the face or on the nose or something, your instant reaction is to go like that, because you're not expecting it or whatever. So if you're not expecting that feeling,
it's the hands as well. Like your hands, like they're messed up for like days and days. All my hands, like I broke this knuckle.
Yeah, you sent me a picture, didn't you, of your hands?
Yeah, and I can't close this knuckle all the way yet, and I've been doing exercises because of the tendons, but I walked around for 2 weeks after the Tyler fight with both my hands swollen. Then this one went down, and this one wouldn't go down, so I was like, I better go get a scene too. So I went up to the hospital, and the nurse was shouting at me like I was in school. She was like, "Mr. Lilley, come here." She went, "Look at that" on the X-ray. And I was like, She went, "Your knuckle's shattered in 3 places." She went, "Why haven't you come here?" And I went, to be honest, I've been working away. And I said, she went, "Right, you're straight in a cast." She went, "You got the car with you?" I was like, "No." She was like, "You're not to drive. You're not to go to work." And I was like, I rang my boss. He was like, "That was 2 weeks ago though." I was like, "Yeah, I've been walking around." But yeah.
Knuckle.
Yeah,
then, if I've still got a picture, I'll put it in.
Yeah, I can send you again. But yeah, and then this hand, I think I pulled the tendon the last week, so I couldn't open my fingers.
That's hard. That's painful, mate.
Yeah, so it's a weird one because although you think with no gloves and so your hands afterwards
pay for it.
Yeah.
What about like when when you're like training and you're sparring and that, particularly when you're like in fight camp and that, and you're getting ready, like obviously at some point you've got to have that more towards recreating or creating like that what it's going to be like in a fight. So if you're fighting a particular fighter, you might spar with someone particular size or whatever or height, but like also, so like I know like from speaking to Danny and like Shaky and people like that, like they do different things. Like when sparring, you can use like slightly bigger gloves than what you'd use in the MMA fight or whatever, just to spar, but so you're not knocking 7 bells of shit out of each other. But like you must have to a certain extent prepare for being it, like you say.
I wear the big gloves all the way through camp and sparring because.
What about before your first ever bare knuckle fight? Did you prepare for that like differently to try and get used to the?
I did it all. I've done it all the way through with big gloves on. I got this. It's called a Macawara board now, which is like this piece of wood with slits cut into it, so you hit it and it moves. So I use that to condition my knuckles. But if I'm hitting the bag or the pads, up until fight week where it's pointless, then I try and look after my hands because I don't want them taking any damage. I've seen some boys and they'll spar each other with just the pro MMA gloves on, but that'll lead to cuts and bruises, and you want to look after yourself. So I've always
Yeah, you don't want to go into a bare knuckle fight.
The only kind of thing I do in sparring is I'll try not to hold the gloves up, so I'll try and make my head move more than anything, and it's quite hard sparring some pro boxers doing that, because you'll spar a pro boxer and they'll know they can come forward with the gloves up and, you know, take the shots, whereas with bare knuckle, if you hold your hands like that, someone's just going to punch through the gap in your hands or get through them. So it's really difficult, because you've got to try and find people to simulate the fight sparring wise, but you also can't expect them to take the gloves off and lump each other, because it just doesn't work. It's going to lead to injury. So it's a really difficult one. Those MMA gloves, the sparring gloves, are pretty good. They're good simulation, but the way they're designed, they've got like a little bit of a bulb on the end, and I find you can't get your distance the same as when you bare knuckle. Then it's strange. It's all experience, and that's why I think I've done so well, because I've had 9 fights in bare knuckle now, so each time we've had a bare knuckle fight, it's added to the experience. So I've had 3 fights now with bare knuckle at BKFC in a circular ring. Twice I've been abroad and had to change the time differences, doing a weight cut after getting off the plane 2 days, you know. So that's all added to my experience. I'm just making it harder for people to beat me now, because I'm just adding every day, you know, because I can't simulate the fight or the travel here in Wales, but it's just adding to my experience. If I'd lost, you know, maybe it wouldn't have given me that little, you know, blueprint of how to do it properly, because we've kept winning and it's just added more. I think I'm becoming more and more complete. It's like collecting Pokemon cards when you got the full set of all the bare knuckle stuff we've been doing, like, you know.
What about that weird shaped ring? Is that any difference to you? Like, I like it.
I do a lot of pad.
Does it affect your angles and stuff when you sort of?
Yeah, because I come from an MMA gym.
When you're not knocking someone out with one punch.
Well, that's what I wanted to do in the first fight in America. I was like, right, feel him out now, get the scope of the ring, and then I knocked him out in like 20 seconds. So it was a Tyler fight. I got because you can't buy those rings, you know, they're expensive. You can't buy one from the gym. So I do a lot of my sparring and pad work in a cage, which is more or less the same shape. But I like the ring. I do. I find you can make this, although it's not a massive ring, you can make the space really big. So I think if you keep changing the angles like I like to do, you can make it feel massive. Or you can make it really small, because, as you said, like, you can't corner people and they're just following each other around. It's good. I really like it. I like the circle ring. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think it gives it like a unique look as well. I do. Like when I first seen it, I was a bit like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that. But actually, like, I haven't watched a couple of shows now. I thought I quite like it. I think it gives them like that. Yeah, something unique about the product, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that. I was thinking about like bare knuckle, and I like the fact that there's 3 big promotions: BKB, BYB, and BKFC, and they've got 3 different rings. So you've got the square ring in the UK, the circle in America, and then the triangle in America, and they've done it in Thailand and stuff as well. But I like that, because although the rule set's pretty much, I like the fact that you can have these crossovers, you know. I think it's pretty cool, and I think it helps with the sport as well, because the only shape I haven't collected is the triangle, which maybe I'll do one day. But yeah, I like it. I like it. The circle ring suits me down to the ground. I love it in there. It's just really cool.
What's the rule difference between the 3 companies? Is there any?
So BKB is traditional boxing rules, except you've got a 20-second count rather than the 10-second count. But there's no holding and punching. And they do 3, 5 or 7 rounds, 2-minute rounds. BYB and BKFC, you can clinch and punch. And the only difference between those two, they both do 5 2-minute rounds, is either a triangle or a circle. And that's the only difference, 10-second counts. It's pretty good. It's good to get used to. I like both. Like, I'm a fan of bare knuckle. You know, I watch as many of the shows as I can now, not just because I know people in them, because they are fun to watch. You know, it's
exciting. They're exciting. Very rare is it like a boring fight, is it?
Yeah, and you know, I've been watching MMA more than boxing recently, because I've been getting so frustrated with the fights that, boxing, I love boxing, that's what I grew up on, but getting so frustrated with some of the fights
People are avoiding fights all the time.
You seem to get better fights now at the domestic level than you do on the world stage, and it's wrong. You shouldn't be getting. We were spoilt, I think, when we were growing up with the fights we had, and I just don't think you're going to ever get it like it was now, because there's too many promoters, too many belts, too many different sports channels showing different contracts.
Well, it's like this weekend you got Joe Joyce and the Chinese guy fighting in there, Zhang, right? But like, to me, Joe Joyce should be fighting Joshua, and Fury should be fighting Usyk, but neither fight's happening, and it's just like, I'm so bored of the Fury Usyk stuff already, like, because it's like, either fight each other or just shut the fuck up, because I'm just bored of it.
It's kind of it's
same with Joshua and Fury, mind, as well. It's just like, stop talking.
Do you know what, as well, right? If you think about it in like a religious sense, say
religious sense,
like you speak to a Muslim and you speak to a Christian, and although they want the same thing to get to paradise, they've got really different ways about going and getting it. So if you're in the Usyk camp or the Fury camp, you think that Fury was in the right, it was all Usyk, and if you in the Usyk camp, it was all Fury. You know what I mean? And their fans are like, they're like what are they called? Religious nutters, because they will not listen to anyone else. No, it was definitely Fury's fault, and that's what I mean. Like, and the people following it will follow what they say to a T, and you can't argue with them, and that's maybe I use the wrong metaphor.
It's frustrating, isn't it? But it's like, we
all just want the big fights. We don't care how it happens. We just want the big fights, and all anyone seems to care about is the negotiations these days.
But it's like, I don't mind the talking. Look, I want everyone. I think fighting needs that, the promotion and the kind of trash talk and all that sort of shit. You have to have that. But like, get a fight signed and then say what you want.
Yeah.
But if you're just talking, but then you're not signing the fight, whoever's fault it is, it's just boring, because you're just effectively talking for no reason. And like, for me, like, it was like, I can't remember, I was saying this the other day, but like, to me, Tyson Fury should be considered one of the best British fighters of all time. But I don't think everybody considers him to be that, because he hasn't fought Joshua still after all these years, and certainly at the time being, he was like the undisputed champion or whatever, and then now he won't fight Usyk for whatever reason. And it's like, I feel like that kind of holds you back like a little bit, because in UFC or Bellator or whatever, it's like the best two fighters in that weight class will fight each other. It's very rare that two fighters will just constantly like avoid each other over years and years. It'll happen eventually.
Yeah,
and normally before they're past their prime. Whereas in boxing, it feels like if it happens, they're like
5 years too late.
Yeah, it's like what was it? Amir Khan and
Cal Brook.
Yeah, it was like they both retired pretty much before the fight.
Mayweather Pacquiao was the same. Happened 5-6 years too late. It
feels like a money grab then, doesn't it?
It's kind of accepted in boxing that that's what we expect, and it shouldn't be. I know it's different because UFC's under one owner, Bellator's under one owner, so the two best fighters eventually. But it shouldn't be this hard to get the fights. And that's why I like being signed for BKFC, is I know that someone who else is signed for BKFC, I'm going to fight. I don't have to worry about, my manager doing this, or having to go fight on this show, or sell this amount of tickets, or wait to get a phone call 5 days before a fight. I like knowing that, right, someone else in this top 5, including the title fighter, is going to be one fighting next. So, yeah, it's good.
With, you mentioned like your wife stayed up and watched the fight with Tyler Goodjohn. Did she watch all your fights?
No, the Tyler Goodjohn fight. I run a bus up from Swansea, and a load of my mates and their partners. My wife went up, my father, my sister, and every fight she's ever gone to watch me, she's left before I've actually fought. She's gone and stood outside. She gets really anxious about it. So she was up in London, and I said to her, whatever you do now, if you don't want to watch it, go down outside and say, don't take anyone with you and make them miss out. It's a long day. She said, right. And one of my sponsors, he said, she was trying to get people to go slag. I was like, it should be fine. And there's a little clip I'll send it to you of the highlight video they did. And you can see my wife stood on a chair screaming like, get in. And I was like, so yeah, it was funny. And she loved it. And then she stayed up. We had people around our house to watch the fight in New Orleans, and she stayed up for that. So I think she's finally come on board that I'm not gonna die like.
It is hard, isn't it, though, I suppose. Like, I think being like the partner of a fighter, I think it can be brutal, I suppose, as well. Especially if you're fighting, like, at least if you're fighting in Cardiff, say, it's like, and she can go to the fight or she can watch it at home or whatever, but she knows, like, you're going to be home in it the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
So even if you've taken a bit of damage or it's been a long night or it's been a good night, whatever, like, you could speak to each other straight after. And when you're on the other side of the world, I guess it's a bit more tricky, innit?
Yeah, I think like that. She, yeah, exactly. She can't be there for me to reassure her. I think she was more worried about me actually getting on the flight from New Orleans because we had a night flight. So we didn't go out party after the fight on the Friday because it was Wales, England and the rugby on the Saturday. So it was an Irish bar on the road. So we were in there from 8 o'clock in the morning drinking with all these Americans. She was facing me like, get on that plane. And we were like, yeah, it'll be fine, But it was...
Did you get the plane?
Yeah, we did, yeah. Just about. I'll send you another video. There's the video of me in the airport trying to put $1 in a vending machine and it wouldn't work. But I was trolleyed, I hadn't had a beer for like 9 weeks. It was
yeah, so nice.
And New Orleans is like, it's like a party town in America. It's the only place you're allowed to drink alcohol in the streets in America. So everyone goes there for stag do's and hen do's. So it's nuts. Like, it's
just rammed, like.
It's like us going to like Amsterdam or before you just see all these other people on the Raz and you're like, oh right. But I was like, don't these people work? And my manager's from Texas said, oh, this is where everyone comes to party if they're on stag do's and hen do's. So like, oh,
whenever I see New Orleans on like TV and that, it's like all the pubs and the buildings, they like overlook like the main streets going through it.
That's Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, and it's party because we went in this one bar and I was like, oh, can I have a water? And like, no, only alcohol in here. He's like, what? He's like, you're not having a drink unless there's alcohol. We don't want people in here. And I was like, I'm fighting in 2 days. He's like, all right, you can have water. But it's just a party atmosphere.
No soft drink.
Yeah, the people there are so friendly and just so loud. But it's a really cool place. It's like really old because it's got so many different cultures there, like English, French, the Africans nations. They don't have an official language and they've got so many influences. You see all the houses are all different shapes, all made of wood. It's berserk, like. And the graveyards are cool as well because I know it sounds mad, but they're all tombs.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to bury anyone in New Orleans because it's below sea level. If there's flooding, the bodies will rise up. So all the graveyards are just tombs. So they're just like big cities of all these tombs. It's berserk, like.
That's mad. That'd be crazy to see, like, in person. Just all these tombs.
Just driving along it, and it's like a little city because. Obviously they must
little buildings like all the way.
Yeah, obviously not everyone can afford like tombs for all their family members. So you've got these big they're like little stone houses. You must have 4 or 5 family members in there. It's bizarre,
Yeah.
But you have graveyard tours. It's a really old
graveyard tours.
Yeah, because that's where all the ghosts are. That's where. So my wife said, she said, oh, I can't believe you're not taking me to New Orleans. She said, why? She said, all the vampire things I watch on Netflix are set in New Orleans. I was like, I don't know that, do I? But yeah, all voodoo and stuff, yeah, so it's a really cool place. So it's not like a family holiday type place, but it's somewhere to go for the experience.
Would you live there?
New Orleans, I don't
Just
know.
outside?
I don't think so, no. Although the food was amazing, like. Fried alligator, fried oysters, that was cool, like, but yeah, it's a bit crazy for me. Florida, I like the move, I like the vibe in Florida.
Florida's supposed to be a bit crazy, in big parts, like, just lunatics.
I think it's like Republican states, they've got like, how to describe it, like, I know people from America who consider people from other states, like, basically, like, we consider foreigners. They're like, oh, they're not real Americans, Like some people in California are completely different to people in New York, and it's the same country. It blows my mind. Like it's bizarre. So each state's its own little country. It's cool. Like.
Yeah. So you'd like to live? Where would you like? You like to live in Florida?
Yeah, Florida. I think would be pretty cool.
Lots of fights around there as well, isn't there?
Yeah. It's, I don't know. Like Miami was pretty cool, but you got to be loaded to live in certain parts of Miami.
Yeah.
There's Lamborghinis everywhere.
Would what about your poetry and that? Like, how's that going now?
To be honest, it's had the kind of same 12 months as the fighting's had, where it's blown up. We run these live events in Avonales and Port Talbot, the Drunk Poet Society. And it started off, the first one was like literally me in a room with a few of my mates, to having this group of poets now, jam-packed nights, can't move in the Avonales is only a small place, can't move in there, people queuing outside the door to get in. We did the Swansea Fringe Festival in November, I want to say. We did Swansea Arena yesterday, they're doing these coffee shops sessions. And it's blown up. We've been on BBC Wales. It's to do with the fighting as well on France TV, but it's literally taken off. I can't believe the two have gone hand in hand, because I thought one was going to kind of fall away from the other. I thought, right, I'm either going to have to focus. I focused on poetry quite a lot in lockdown because there was nothing else to do. And then when I came out, my fighting started building up. I didn't think I'd be able to do the poetry at the same time, and they do kind of sometimes. Like if I'm focused on writing, I won't think about training or whatever, and then the other way around. But they've gone hand in hand together. It's been a really cool 12 months for me. Really cool.
What's the I'm still waiting for my book. Come on now.
Oh, I am going to book myself. I went the French I'll have to send you. Yeah, I forgot all about that. Yeah, the French TV guys are like, have you got a book?
2 years later.
I did send it. Was it you who sent it? Yeah.
Got lost, didn't it?
Yeah. I'll send you another. I will.
Shocking.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't joking.
I forgot all about that.
I just remembered when you were talking, and I was like, oh, yeah.
I forgot about that too. Yeah.
But yeah, I think like because you get quite a lot of interest, like in you when I see people on like social media and that, like talking to you about poetry as much as fighting.
Oh, my DMs are they're a bit mad because I'm currently collaborating with this a woman in France. We're doing like a poetry collection together. She's had a few books published, so she's sending me poems. Other people are sending me like fight footage and stuff, and a lot of it are fighters sending me poems that they've written. But yeah, depending on what I'm doing, I'll get either my DMs full of poems or my DM full of fights. It's
like a mix, like
yeah, it's crazy. And then there'll be the odd porn bot or someone telling me to invest in crypto or some.
Join this group.
Yeah, so it's still not a billionaire, so it hasn't worked.
Do you know did you say you have fighters sending you poems as well?
Yeah.
Do you have any like who sort of send them to you privately and ask like, what do you think of this?
Yeah, all the time. It's
because they're not ready to like.
Yeah, I
publish
think
it to the world, sort of thing.
I think that's one of the good things that have come from me being involved in these poetry and getting my name out there, is that people think, oh, that idiot can do it, so why can't I do it in the nicest way possible? But yeah, I think that I don't know why they think I'm an expert at poetry. I just feel like I've fallen into these different things. But yeah, a lot of them send me poetry asked. And if people do watch this, and I will say this, if you send me a poem, I will take about a week to get back to you, because I don't like just to skim it and say, oh, that's good. I like to really sit down and read it, and then if you want feedback on it, it's going to take me longer. So I do get around to them. Like, I only reply to a guy who's been there for 2 weeks. Like, I haven't had time to sit down and really read it. Yeah, I'm what's the word? I'm really sort of finicky about poetry, whereas I won't just sit down and read it. So if someone texts me a poem, and they're like, "Oh, did you read it?" I'm like, "Look, I gotta sit down and read this. I give it the respect it deserves," type thing. Yeah.
What about like with regards to writing your own poetry, how often do you reckon you get stuck into that?
It's been really difficult lately, which is one of the, I wouldn't say negative, but one of the sort of side effects of the fighting, because like doing podcasts, like doing interviews on my phone, doing different content for the fighting, kind of takes away. And with work as well, when work's busy, I can't find the space that I used to find. Like sometimes I'd go home, sit down, and be like, right, instead of watching TV now, and go sit in the corner for an hour and scribble away, read some stuff. But because at the minute, because my life is like quite hectic, I'm not finding that space. If I get like an idea, I'll tap it out on my phone. Like I've got Microsoft Word on my phone, which was a godsend, and then I'll go back and edit it. But it's just finding those little moments of inspiration. Like I've got a couple of ideas. Like I want to work on I had a couple of successes with a few short stories I've sent to magazines and stuff. So I want to kind of write a story, but it's like.
Would you like to write a book, like a novel?
I've tried. I got up to 30,000 words once in lockdown, but I didn't like what I was writing, so I stopped it. But
you still got it?
Yeah.
I think I want to read it.
Yeah, it's a bit like Lord of the Ringsy fantasy. It was my first ever attempt at it, but I've done like writing courses as well. But
yeah,
I've got a couple of ideas for like some crime stuff set around Wales, and
not enough of them.
No, and like the history of Wales. You look at like
it's mental, isn't it?
You look at legends and mythical creatures in Wales, and like what's his name? Tolkien. He used to base a lot of stuff around Welsh mythology. What's his name? Who wrote Game of Thrones? George R.R. Martin. If you read his book on Game of Thrones, it's all about like the War of the Roses and the different houses of England and stuff, warring against each other. So all that stuff has come from Wales. Like I've got a history book in the house, the Welsh Wars of Independence, about when we were fighting against the English to stop them killing our language and stuff. And that in itself, if you turn that into a fantasy story and change the language to maybe they're trying to kill like a race of whatever elves, it would be we've got such a rich we've got such a rich history of mythologies. I don't think we get it enough, and I think it's just because of where we are in the world.
Small country and then tucked away.
Some of our rooms and like some of the stones that are just on the roadside with like carvings on, they're like 2,000 years old. If that was found somewhere in like Bethlehem or the Amazon jungle, they'd be like, oh, this is but in Wales we're just like
it's just a rock.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Just another rock.
I think we've got too rich of a history and heritage here where we're just used to it, and it doesn't we don't, what's the word, celebrate it enough.
Yeah, and you take things for granted though as well, don't you? Right, like there's about 20 minutes from here, like there's a Roath Park lake, right, and it's like this massive lake, and it's got like a little lighthouse in it, and it's like a beautiful park and that. And I say to my missus, it's like 5 minutes from my house, and I say to my missus all the time and my kids, like if we went away for a weekend and we were like just we'd gone away like to Cornwall or somewhere, and we seen a park like that, we'd be like, oh, I'd love to live by here so we could go to that park every day or whatever, and take a dog for a walk.
Yeah,
5 minutes around the corner, like. And there's so many places like that in Wales. Like my oldest boy, before he was on a piss this week, he's last week he went up to Brecon to do some stuff. He does like a lot of stuff with Duke of Edinburgh and that, and he had like a couple of days in Brecon, which is obviously a beautiful part of Wales. And then he on the way back, him and his girlfriend were going to ride their bikes back from Brecon to Cardiff. Okay, fine. And so I dropped his missus and their bikes up to him in Brecon at like about 2:00 in the afternoon. And he said, yeah, we're going to leave now. We'll be back about 8. It takes about 5 hours. Right, okay. And to be fair to him, he's always like super prepared for stuff.
Yeah.
But I think because he was already in Brecon and I was kind of taking her and the bikes to him, so he didn't pack like the bags and stuff. He gave me a list and then I just chucked the stuff in the bag and I didn't forget anything. But so anyway, I've drove home back to Cardiff, taken my other boy to football, gone and picked up a load of people to go to football, and then like half time is coming up to half time in the football, and he's phoning me and I was like, oh, here we go. And we joked, like I said, don't be phoning me at like 8 o'clock to get you from like Merthyr or something. And he goes, my girlfriend's got a puncher. So we got this guy who was in a local bike shop. He's going to bring over an inner tube now and he's going to do it. And he's like, that's really nice of him. He didn't have to do that, did he? Because you're in the middle of nowhere. No, I was going to pay him some extra, he said. And fine. But he said, it sets back about an hour. I said, okay. I said, so have you got lights in the view? Because you could be, it's going to be like 9 o'clock now. And no. Right, well, you need to make sure you make good time then, don't you? Yeah, we'll be as quick as we can. And then literally, like, 10 minutes before the football finished, maybe even less, he phoned me and goes, we got Eddie's bike fixed and stuff, and we got a bit further, and now I've got a puncher.
Oh, no.
So he goes, I don't know what to do, because her parents can't come and get us. And I was like, well, mate, I'm not available now until I've dropped all these people home. So I dropped everyone home. And he goes, right, I've sent you my location, like, where I am. We're in the middle of nowhere. It's getting dark. It's freezing.
There's walls.
We're up a mountain and we're by Talabont Reservoir. But when he said it's in Brecon. So I was like, how can you still be in Brecon all this time later? You must be further than that. So anyway, like, as I'm on my way up there then, he's phoned me and he's been like, right, I've sent you, go to this postcode, which is Talabont Reservoir. So I put it in the sat-nav, and I've come to, like, the Brecon roundabout, and it's taking me up to, like, Abergavenny.
Yeah.
Instead of to Brecon. So I phoned him, and I've gone, mate, are you sure that postcode's right now? Because this isn't, like, where you said this was. So I just want to be sure. Yeah. Bear in mind, I've been driving since, like, 11 o'clock in the morning now, non-stop from various things. And anyways, cut a long story short, I ended up, to get to him, I had to go over this mountain, like 9 o'clock at night, and it was just a drop on both sides, a single lane mountain, but it's just like, it wasn't like straight, it was like snaking around,
the shining
like,
at the beginning, yeah.
But it was, and because it was cold and rainy, and it was foggy, so I could literally see from us to the camera, like in front of the car, and it's just like a drop, and I'm just like, I'm going to end up in a field, like down the bottom of a cliff, to be found in a couple of weeks. But in fairness, I got to them eventually. Like, I was not happy, I've got to say. I was fuming.
I bet, yeah.
But like, also, when I got to them, I was fuming by the time I got to them. But also, I was like, right, I got them, glad, because they were literally like in the middle of nowhere, nothing around, no drink, like a bit of water, and that's about it. And like, so when they're putting the bikes in the car, I've got out to have a cigarette and phone my missus, because I'd been out of contact for like an hour.
Yeah.
And she couldn't come with me because got to get the bikes in, innit? And she's like, I've been trying to phone you and whatever, and I'm like, yeah, that's got like a little bit of signal. And I only stood outside for, I reckon, like a minute and a half while they put the bikes in, 2 minutes maybe. I was fucking freezing, mate. And I was just like, they've been out here for 2 hours. I was thinking, if they'd been out here for like another couple of hours, they could have been in like some real problem, because there was nothing around. There was no like villages or like a pub or something, like
in the dark as well as.
Yeah, like it was just pitch black. They had no lights as well because they hadn't planned on being
that late. Yeah. Nightmare.
So he had a fucking proper lecture about being prepared and stuff, but like I say, to be fair, he isn't normally. So that was a bit of the offshoot story there, but like
nightmare weekend, mate.
Mate, I was not happy, I've got to say, and I felt so bad. Like the next day, my back was killing me, and I was just like, and then he said he's got no sense of like fucking. He's got ADHD, so he's a bit like he has his moments. Like he's all right. Like as he's got older, he's kind of chilled out a bit, but like. He still has moments where he's a bit like all over the place, and like so we're driving back, but of course, what I kind of didn't. So when I've got him, I've gone. I'm going to drive. I'm going to keep going down this mountain. I'm not going back the way I just came because I don't think it's safe.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
I'm not quite sure how I managed it, but like with you two as well. So I thought we'll just go down, and we'll kind of just circle around until we'll get to the motorway eventually, and it like might take a bit longer. But of course, when I thought that, I hadn't, like, when you get to Brecon and all the mountains, but once you go through them, there's no way back other than going back over a mountain.
Yeah.
So like, we kind of come down and we circle around, and then we ended up going over one of the other mountains. And it's like, it was like a 2-laned one where they had cat's eyes and the odd barrier, like when it's a sharp corner. So I was alright. I was like, this is nothing compared to what I've just been through. I can see the road markings. It's 2 lanes. But his girlfriend's like sat in the front, and she's just gone silent, like, and she's just like peering out the window, looking over the edge on the one side. But he is going, oh yeah, imagine we got a puncher by here now, and we're like in the middle of nowhere. He's got no sense of like, and then
no filter.
Yeah, and I was like, mate, you know, I want you to talk on that because it just helps me like not get too sort of anxious and whatever. But I was like, talk with someone else. Like, and then he goes, oh yeah, well, when we ride the bikes back from Brecon next time, I think we've learned a few things that we need to do this.
Just a couple, yeah.
And I'm like, mate, I've been driving for 12 hours. Didn't get back till like 11:30. So I was literally like driving non-stop for 12 hours. I was like, yeah, you can ride back from Brecon without my help.
Take a tent.
Oh, mate. Unbelievable. Kids, you've got all this to come, mate.
Yeah.
Yours is younger
I
than
know.
mine.
I cannot afford it.
Nightmare, mate. I've got three boys, 18, 16, 14.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the teenage years, I'll be honest.
They I've been quite lucky, like, because they're pretty good. They're not like what I was like when I was a teenager. So,
That's always a good sign, isn't it?
yeah, like, that was my worry, is like when they were like 10, you know, like that sort of age, sort of coming into like towards high school, I was like, oh, if they're like me, we're in for a real rocky 10 years now, yeah, between the three of them. So far, so good. Like, pretty much. The odd little sort of incident, but pretty good. But like, when I had my kids, I was like, obviously I had a boy, and like, would have liked a girl, but like now, especially like the way the wheels turn and stuff, I'm glad I've got boys for the way that I'm able to deal with it, because I don't think I, as a person, am equipped to have a teenage daughter.
The world's a completely different place, yeah. I got this coming, so
It's weird though, right, mate? Talk about like, because obviously you're a father, like same as me, and it's weird, mate, isn't it, right? Because like the generation we come from, summer holidays, say like we'd have gone out after breakfast or whatever, stayed out all day, and then like, I know your parents come and get you from the field or whatever because you're playing football or whatever, like when it's dark or it's tea time or whatever, you'd have no contact throughout the day. But like now, if my kids are out for a few hours, like especially the younger one, and I text him and he don't text me back, I'm alright for a bit. Give it like an hour and he still haven't text back, I'm like, mate,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like, that's so weird to me because that's not how I grew up. Having to report everything to my mother, like, but
I can remember, like, my cousins are from up the valleys, and I can remember going over the house in the day before we had phones, went out in the morning, and we didn't went out when it was light, like just coming up the light, and then come back till it was dark, and we didn't speak to anyone, and no one come looking for us or worry. They just, I couldn't imagine doing that now. And we were only like, 11, 12, and although we were two boys, we went all over the mountains, through the woods and everything, and no one was like, oh, where are you and stuff. Yeah, I get what you mean. And I think we're reliant on, but I think the world is a scarier place now than it was back then.
I think, like, I don't know, is it? Or is it just that we're more aware of those things now? Because because you're an adult and your father and stuff like that, but also because of the internet, innit?
Yeah, that's true.
Because like, there was still like nonces and kiddie fiddlers and whatever. There was all those things were still there, weren't they? When we were little, they was just they were trying to get you in their car with sweets instead of contacting you on the internet.
Yeah, pretending to be someone else. Yeah.
Catfishing people and stuff. It's weird, man. It's how do you deal with it as a father? Like all the different things that you've got to worry about.
I became a bare little fighter.
Just punch people in the face.
Just threaten them with violence. No, it is difficult. I kind of think I'm quite laid back about a lot of things, but yeah, they said
Yeah, so am I. But like your kids, it's like
Yeah,
it takes on a life of its own, doesn't it?
yeah. I honestly, I don't know. And I'm a little bit childish myself, so I can deal with like some of the stuff that you get involved in, like laughing off. But yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not. I don't think I've got the equip for this to the teenage years coming up yet.
Mate, I'll remind me to tell you about something which happened to one of my kids. I can't tell you on camera, but it was I was getting a fucking shovel in a van. I was, but it's just one of them things. Like, but what about like in terms of when you look forward to beyond your fighting career? Do you think you'd like to stay around fighting and maybe coach like the next generation and become like a...
I don't know. Or
are you going to write books, retire?
Yeah, I've kind of got that other outlet now, but like I love... I'm looking forward to just being a fan of fighting and just being able to watch it on TV without having to give my opinion on it, like type of thing, you know? Like I'll speak about boxing in the office and then everyone will come up and say, "Oh, you seen this?" And you know, I don't know what some fighters are talking about because I don't follow as close as I used to.
So everyone wants to know what you think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward just to being a fan. Like I'll always be in the gym because I like training, but would I become a coach? I don't know. It's
or a commentator or a pundit.
I'd like to be involved there. I've done some commentary. I've done a little bit of everything involved around combat sports, but I think I'd have to have a little bit of a break from it for like, you know, a good 12 months, 24 months to see how I feel, because at the minute I get such a buzz from fighting and from, you know, going away and having all the plaudits that I think it's going to be a steep like decline after. So I'm going to need to kind of gauge where I am. And I said I'm quite lucky because the poetry's kind of on the rise as well. So I have got that other outlet, so that will take a lot of focus. Like when I'm writing, I don't think about fighting, and when I'm fighting, I don't think about writing unless something...
Never combine the two?
I've written a poem in the changing room before, or fighting stuff before. It's just like popped into my head and stuff. So although they do inspire each other, they kind of mean I can focus on one without having to think about the other. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a strange...
You see a lot of fighters struggle, don't you, after when they finish, because you lose that.
Yeah, I was very worried a couple of years back when I was thinking about, obviously after an injury, not really feeling like I was getting to where I wanted to be, just taking fights for the sake of it. Like the first thing was win a title, and then when I got to that, I was like, what am I going to do after I retire? So I had a bit of identity crisis type thing, but I've kind of relaxed a little bit now because I feel like I've ticked a couple more things I wanted to do off my bucket list. So if I retired now, I'd be pretty happy. You know, the world title was never my goal as a kid. You know, I never thought I'm going to be world champion. That's a goal now because of where I am.
Yeah, you're like so close, isn't it?
Yeah, so close. So that is a goal. So without having that as a goal, it'd be pointless to be carrying on. But that wasn't what I set out fighting for. I set out fighting because I liked it. So I've kind of relaxed a little bit now. So if I sat down now, they said, right, James, your hand's not healing. That's it. You've got to retire. Okay. So then I'd look at what I've achieved so far, and I'd be pretty happy with it now because the last 12 months has helped me tick off those little boxes I wanted to tick off. You know, fighting in America, I would never have dreamed of that, and then I've done it twice. So that's that. So I'm really satisfied with my fighting career now. But if I won the world title, the goalposts might move. Then I'd look at something. But what can I do now? But yeah, I
think it opens up a lot of different avenues and opportunities, doesn't it, if you become like a world champion?
Yeah, I still...
Just naturally.
Although I'm so close to fighting for the world title and probably to winning it, I also still feel that there's like some sort of mythical creature, you know, at the minute. It still doesn't seem that close. So I tend not to think about it too much, but I am really satisfied with my fighting career. I'd be happy just to call it a day now. You know, I wouldn't feel like I needed to do any more. But I've got the opportunity to fight for a title. I got 2 fights left, see, with the BKFC contract before they talk about renewal. So
I guess as well, if with that side of things, is if your next fight was for the title and then you obviously defend it, you're in a phenomenal position in terms of negotiating, aren't you?
yeah, so then that would change the goal again. The next goal then would be make a pile of money to
Secure your family's future and that.
Yeah, and we're close at the minute, so I kind of feel like I can't retire yet. Not that I don't want to fight. Of course, I want to fight. I'm in the best position I've ever been in. But yeah, I'm also very satisfied with what I've done so far. So I don't think I need to be around the sport of boxing unless I wanted to, or fighting. So I'd probably take a little bit of a break from it. I like being around other fighters as well. Like, I got young kids. I say kids in the 20s coming up to me and asking me advice, and I like giving advice. So I like being in the gym, and I'll always pass information. I'm not one of these ones where you've got to be like, oh, what do this? If someone asks me for help, I'll help them. So I like giving that information because there weren't that many pros in the gym when I first was coming up, so you didn't get that information. So I'm happy to help, but I don't know if I've got the time, to train anyone.
Yeah.
I'd always, if someone wanted me to help them out in the corner, I'd do it, but I haven't got the time to train anyone. No, I'd
be like a full-time coach.
Yeah, it'd be hard.
Dedicate yourself to like a fight team.
But like I said, if I win the title and then that opens up, I know maybe I could quit work and focus on that. But at the minute, I haven't got time to train people around my other hobbies.
Interesting. It's out of all your family, friends, and like people close to you, who's the worst at watching you fight?
Oh, it would be my wife, definitely.
Even though she's got a taste for it now, she become bloodthirsty in the last fight.
Yeah, she gets really anxious.
Yeah, I bet.
Fight week. I'm a really what's the word? Romantic, not romantic, I romanticize things. So I'm just thinking it's all glory and all this, where she thinks the negative side of things. You could get hurt, what if this happened? So we're a bit like chalk and cheese in that regard. But she'd be the worst person. Out of my friends, family, everyone else is pretty cool.
How's your old man find it?
He loves watching me fight. He's very proud of me. I just think my family have wished I would have packed it in a while back. But what I try and say, and I was thinking about this on the car on the way up. I told my wife a few years ago when, more than a few years ago, it was probably before we had our first child. But I was working a rubbish job in a contact centre. We just bought our first house together. We weren't poor, but we weren't well off. And I'm not good at doing other stuff other than my job was at the time. And I remember saying to her stick with me and good stuff will happen in the end. And it's come, it's taken over 16 years or whatever, but it's got to fruition. I've got myself in a position where we are gonna get a good payday soon. We are gonna get I've gone on 2 trips abroad. Stuff. It's finally happened. So yeah. And I think, although most of my family wish I'd wrapped it in, 10 years ago, I think they are a little bit they're a little bit secretly, they want me to carry on,
Yeah.
Except my nans, they're like, oh, I'm too old for it now. But yeah, it's...
I think you, this particularly this last year, but even when I spoke to you the last time you come in here, I think you could tell there was a change in you from when we had you on with me and Danny. Just in the when you spoke to me and Danny, it was a bit you weren't quite sure what direction you wanted to go in and what you wanted to do. But you knew I want to fight, but I'm not sure where I'm going to go or what I'm going to do with it. And then when you came in here, you were I got this fight lined up. Can't tell you who it is, but it's going to be good or whatever. And then now, obviously, the last year or so has been phenomenal.
Yeah, if I
couldn't have gone much better, could it?
No, I don't think I could have asked for a better year.
Chuck a lottery win.
Yeah, but if I'd had this 12 months earlier in my career, when I was maybe 25, 26, in boxing, or I'd had this old bare knuckle, maybe I wouldn't still be fighting now. But I think I don't regret anything I've ever done. Everything happens for a reason, and I'm a big believer in that. If you love a sport or you're passionate about a sport and you just keep doing it and you don't care if it's for titles or money or to be on TV, and you just keep grinding, you'll eventually get what you want. And that I know I didn't sign my contract with BKFC until I was 35, and then since then I've had the 2 fights in America. I've had interviews with American TV, been sat up on stage with UFC fighters, Bellator fighters, ex-pro boxing world champions know who I am now because of that. So yeah, it's I just feel like you got to grind, and I think that the change happened when I signed the Tyler fight, because that was that next step, and I'm at that level now. So yeah.
But also, I think that adversity over the last 10 years or whatever, that makes a difference. That makes it just part of the journey, innit? If it's just always plain sailing, I don't know if you have the same, not just you, just other people generally. If you don't have the adversity, I don't know if you have the same mentality when the shit hits the fan and when things get a bit tough and you've got to dig deep and you've got to find ways to cope and go through difficult times. Makes the good times sweeter, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think,
especially if you have those good times when you're young and you're not mature enough or not mentally equipped to deal with those highs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel I said to you and Daniel before, I've never cared about money getting it. I just fight because I like fighting. And I never felt that I was going through a rough spot. I just thought, you know what, I could take this or leave this now. And then I didn't, and it's blown up. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I think you've got to go through those tough times. When you come out the other side of it, it said I could stop fighting now and I'd be happy with everything. Whereas if I'd stopped fighting 12 months ago before any of this happened, maybe I would end up being a bit, bitter or what would have happened if I kept going?
Well, it's almost like that. What's the word? It's the opposite of hindsight. I can't remember. But you almost you're wondering, and what if I had stuck at it? What if I would I have done this or would I have done that? Whereas you obviously had the last 12 months where it's gone very, very well, and now you've put yourself in a position where whatever happens, there's going to be good things.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah,
the next 6 months or so is going to be good, isn't it? Regardless,
satisfied. I feel satisfied now. That should be good.
Either way, the next 6 months for you is going to be some sort of journey.
Yeah, and everything from this point on now is a bonus. It's not what I was expecting. So yeah, like I said, I'm satisfied now, and I'm just happy to. What a big payday.
Big payday and a title belt.
Big payday next, yeah.
Yeah, so then next time you can come in with a title belt then, can you?
Hopefully, yeah. Well, hopefully I get it a bit before then. But
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years' time.
No, I was going to ask you something else, but I've completely forgotten what it was. It serves me right for not having any sort of script.
I like this. It's more natural then, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I just like chatting to people, mate.
Yeah,
that's the thing. And then I've tried to rein myself in a little bit because I just like talking. So often I'll have people in and we just talking it, and then I end up, because what I'll do is if I'm speaking to you or I'm speaking to whoever, if you say something or you're talking about something which maybe I don't know about in massive detail or whatever, I'll try and relate it to something which I have been through, or something similar which has happened to me or whatever. But I end up going off on tangents and stuff. So I can't even remember how I ended up telling you about my trip to Bracken. But
I was Welsh heritage.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, I just like having a good chat with people. I prefer it to be a relaxed conversation. But sometimes I get the odd comment of I wish you just shut up and let the guest talk. It's
but that's how a natural chat flows, isn't it?
Yeah, so. I'd rather, and that's the thing. My whole thing of when I started doing podcasts was not that I wanted to interview people. I wanted to have a conversation with people, whether it was fighters or footballers or whoever.
Yeah, I get
and
that.
you get to see like the real side of them instead of, particularly, not as much, I don't think, with fighters, maybe a little bit, but certainly with like footballers and certain other sort of like actors and stuff. They're so used to doing like media interviews. They say the same stuff all the time, and it's like I think it's much more difficult to get different answers or like just get what someone's about if you're just asking, like if you just go by just a clipboard or whatever with just like a load of questions to ask you. It's like it just kills the flow of the conversation, doesn't it? Because then it's like I ask you a question, you answer it, and then it's like, well, and on to the next question.
A free phone chat's better.
Yeah. So if you don't like that, tough shit.
Fuck the haters.
Yeah. No, look, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me again, mate. Appreciate it.
Next
nice
time, hopefully, be the champ, innit?
Yeah, definitely. Well, not definitely. Put money on it though.
No, yeah. Bet your life savings on it. But if it doesn't work, blame him. No, I think hopefully they sort it out so you can.
I should know in the next
done
week
soon,
or so. Hopefully, what's happening.
When's that card with Eddie Alvarez and
29th of April, but we're expecting an answer from them at some point over the weekend because we've asked a couple of questions. If not, I'm going to chase them up Monday. We've got some other offers on the table for different things, not bare knuckle, but I'd rather focus on bare knuckle.
Yeah, sweet. Guys, give James a follow. Check out his poetry. Can I buy the books?
Probably, I don't know.
Not sure now.
It might go on Amazon. I don't know. I haven't.
They were on Amazon previously, so
one's still on its way to you somewhere.
It's in the post. It's in the post. But yeah, if they're still on Amazon, I'll put the link in there, and of course subscribe to our YouTube and all that good stuff. Check us out on the Sports Social Podcast Network, and shout out to Buy the Money as always. Use the code ACE20, get 20% off. Nice one.
Yeah.